like to make a call, please hang up and try again.
Dr. Teresa Sievers' dead body was discovered in her Florida home on June 29, 2015. In August 2015, police arrested 2 Missouri men and eventually charged them with killing Sievers. In December 2015, Teresa Sievers' husband Mark was arrested and accused of orchestrating her killing. Presented here is Mark Sievers' November 2019 trial.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
I'm Detective Jamie Nolan.
And how do you spell your first name
Jamie.
and your last name?
Nolen.
Okay. And where are you employed, sir?
I work for the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity do you work there?
I work as an investigator.
And as an investigator, what do your duties entail?
My duties have changed since this case started, but at the time of this case, I was a homicide investigator.
And what are your duties? What are your duties currently?
I now work for the Criminal Investigations Division.
How long have you been a Lee County Sheriff's deputy?
Since February of 2003, so nearly 17 years.
And at the time of the investigation involving Dr. Teresa Sievers, how long had you been an investigator?
About 9 years.
Okay. Did you become involved in an investigation at 27034 Jarvis Road on June 29th of 2015?
Yes, I did.
And how did you become involved in that investigation?
At that time, I was the lead investigator. I was the on-call detective that day when a death investigation call came out at that address.
And why is it significant that you were the on-call investigator that day?
We all take turns being on-call detectives, and that was significantly my day that I was on call.
Okay, so if you're on call and a homicide gets called in, you're the person who gets called to respond to it?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Any kind of death investigation, whether it's a suicide, natural death, or a homicide, will be called out to investigate those crimes.
How was it that the sheriff's office was called to that scene?
Initially it came in as a death investigation, so we were called. We were unaware that it was a homicide at that time. I arrived on scene, was told that there was a female laying on the ground in the kitchen. I donned gear, booties, so as to not contaminate the scene, and gloves, entered the scene via the garage, and walked into the kitchen where I observed Ms. Sievers laying on the floor.
And what state was she in when you observed her laying on the floor?
She was obviously deceased, laying in the prone position.
And for those of us who don't know investigative lingo, can you explain to the members what the prone position is?
I mean, she was laying face down.
Okay, so did you have an opportunity to determine who, if anybody else, lived in the home?
Yes, I did. During a sworn statement that I obtained from Dr. Paramedic, he advised that.
Overruled.
He advised that he'd received a call from Mark Sievers, Teresa Sievers' husband, to.
Were you able to obtain Mr. Sievers' contact information from Dr. Paramedic during that discussion?
Yes, we did.
And then were you able to make contact with Mark Sievers?
Yes, we did.
And where did you make contact with, or how did you make contact with him?
It was via telephone because he was out of state.
And when did you make contact with Mark Sievers?
It was sometime in the early afternoon.
Of the 29th of June?
Yes, sir.
2015?
Yes, sir.
And when you spoke to Mr. Sievers, did you tell him what was happening at his home?
I don't believe so. Not that time, no, sir. We just said that his wife had been injured and that he needed to come home.
You didn't tell Mr. Sievers that his wife had been killed?
I wasn't.
Overruled.
I wasn't. I don't believe I was the actual person that spoke to him at that time. He was one of the other investigators.
Okay, were you present when the discussion was had?
Yes, I was.
And did Mr. Sievers actually come back to Florida from wherever he was?
Yes, he did.
Did you get to make contact with him when he came back?
Yes, I did.
And where did you make, when did you make contact with him when he came back?
It was about 7 o'clock on June 29th, 2015, at his mother's house.
Okay. And that was here in Lee County?
It was in Bonita Springs, Lee County, sir.
And is the home where the investigation was started, is that also in Lee County?
That's in Bonita Springs, Lee County, yes, sir.
And when you made initial contact with Mr. Sievers, did you then tell him that his wife was deceased?
Yes, sir.
And then did you then have a subsequent discussion with Mr. Sievers?
Yes, sir. We obtained a sworn, digitally recorded statement from him.
And then that was on the 29th at 7 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
But then did you have another discussion with him?
We had another discussion several days later.
And where did that second discussion occur?
That was at the Lee County Sheriff's Office headquarters.
And during that second discussion, did Mr. Sievers disclose that he had possession of a cell phone?
Yes, he did.
And let me ask you a little bit about cell phones. At that time, are cell phones a relevant factor in a police investigation?
Objection, Your Honor. 401, 403. Can we approach?
Sure.
Okay. Detective Nolan, did you have a meeting with Mr. Sievers on July 1st?
Yes, I did.
And during that meeting, did you have an opportunity to ask Mr. Sievers if he had a cell phone?
Yes, I did.
And did he in fact have a cell phone?
Yes, he did.
And did you ask if you can if the sheriff's office could conduct a forensic examination of his cell phone?
I did. I had him sign a Lee County Sheriff's Office consent to search form, which allows us to search his telephone, his cell phone.
And did he, well, the first question is did you offer him anything in exchange to even talk to you?
No, sir.
Was he threatened or given anything in exchange to talk to you?
No, sir.
You said you asked him for consent to search his cell phone. Was he threatened or offered anything in exchange for signing a consent form?
No, sir.
He did it of his own free will?
Yes, sir. He was free to go at any time, sir. Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is the Lee County Sheriff's Office consent to search cellular phone affidavit.
And is that the affidavit that was is that the form that was given to Mr. Sievers?
Yes, it was.
And did he have an opportunity to read it?
Yes, he did.
Did he appear to understand it after he read it?
Yes, sir.
And did he then sign it and grant consent for access to his phone?
He signed it and printed his name. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would admit what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit Number 24 and evidence as State's 24. And were you able to determine from him whether or not there were any security devices, alarm systems, or other similar type devices in his home?
Yes, I did.
And did you have that discussion with him?
Yes, we did.
Was there anybody, when you talked to him, was there anybody who was accessing his home while he was away?
Yes, there was.
Who did he tell you who it was?
Yes, he did.
Who?
His mother, Bonnie Sievers, she was checking on his dogs for him.
What did the Sievers home have an alarm system?
Yes, it did.
And did he tell you whether his mother had access to that alarm system?
He had provided her with a keypad number for it.
And was this the kind of alarm system that's built into the home, or was it some other type of alarm system?
It was built into the home.
With the sensors and the keypad and all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you see it yourself?
Yes, I did.
opportunity to discuss with him whether there had been any issues or problems with his alarm system during the weekend of the 27th and 28th, the Saturday the 27th and the Sunday the 28th?
I don't believe I did it, no, sir.
So as far as you knew, the alarm system was working?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to ask Mr. Sievers if he knew who had killed his wife?
Yes, I did.
And did he tell you who?
He stated he didn't know why anybody wanted to hurt his wife, let alone kill her.
When you asked him to come back, he never actually got a chance to go into his home before you spoke to him?
No, he didn't. There was several days our crime scene unit were working in there.
So when your crime scene unit is working the scene, they don't let civilians into the scene?
No, they don't. We have deputies that sit outside the house because it's a crime scene, and they make sure that nobody enters our crime scene.
And at some point, did you start an investigation into any potential life insurance policies on Teresa Sievers?
I did question Mr. Sievers about that during our digital recorded statement. He said that he did have they had life insurance on each other, and so I did subpoena several companies, approximately 5 companies.
He gave you the names of the companies?
No, our analyst ran an insurance background check and found about 5 companies.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
It's Kevin Stout. I go by Casey.
And how do you spell your last name?
Stout.
And where are you employed?
With the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been employed with the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I started in 2003.
And in what capacity have you been employed with the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I started as a network administrator in 2003. In 2005, I transferred over to the digital forensics unit.
What is the digital forensics unit?
We recover, collect, preserve, report on any kind of digital media, computers, cell phones.
And what is your current role in the digital forensics unit?
In 2013, I was promoted to the supervisor of the unit.
Can you give let the jury have a sense of your background, your training, your experience in terms of digital forensics?
In digital forensics, we're required to obtain it's called a Certified Forensic Computer Examiner certification. It's a lengthy process. It takes about a year. There's basically 3 phases. You had to first go to a 2-week, pretty intense crash course on what digital forensics is, what tools are out there, how the data recovery process works. After that 2 weeks, you're assigned a coach, and in that time frame, you have to complete 4 practical examinations. It's practice on how to recover evidence from computers and on how to report on it, how to use the tools that are available out there to you. Once you pass and complete those 4 practicals, you are then given an independent practical where you're doing the same process, but you're doing it independently. You got to recover the data. You have to fully report on that data to know, and that when you're completed with your report, you hand it in, and your coach verifies that you've checked all the, making sure you recovered every piece of evidence that they implant into that piece. The trick to that is, as part of that process, they embed a hidden encrypted document that ends up becoming a 100-question test, which you would then also have to pass. It's pretty intense.
It's 16 pages. Were certain pages are these pages that come from the Cellbrite download or extraction? Let me use the correct word. Are those pages that come from the Cellbrite extraction for the phone with the 314 number that we just introduced into evidence as States Exhibit 25?
Yes, ma'am. It's a timeline view.
And that's a timeline view, you said. What is a timeline view?
When we extract data and it goes into the report viewer, it categorizes it, like we were saying before, it categorizes according to the type of artifact it is. Text message, phone call, contacts, and it'll categorize it. But if you want to see what the phone was doing in the exact timeline of the usage of the phone itself, it puts it and it merges everything from the contacts, phone calls, whatever was doing on the phone, it puts it in this timeline view to put it into the exact sequence that the person was using the phone, whether it was sending or receiving information. It puts it in that view in a chronological order.
Mayor, if I can just respond briefly, I just want to
Sure.
put on the record that the state would be willing, and given council's concerns, to introduce the full multi-thousand pages extract with all the information that was contained in it.
Noted for the record, it's admitted. Next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, I know on State's Exhibit 25A, one sees in the far right-hand column periodically red yeses. What are those red yeses?
Those were artifacts that were recovered that were previously deleted from the phone, but the Cellbrite tool was able to recover them.
Can you read to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury whether that was a sent message or a received message, and if sent, who it was sent to and what it said?
It was sent to a phone number 314-996-9581, which is the name of Wayne Wright. It was sent to him.
And what did that message say?
Hopefully we can talk privately tomorrow. Nothing about you or Angie, but it's personal.
And was that message deleted?
Yes.
And what day was it sent?
On May 3rd, 2015,
About what time?
at 2:13 p.m.
And what does it, and to whom was it sent?
To Wayne Wright.
And what did it say?
Do not want to really use, in quotes, secure texts, end quotes, as I believe nothing is really secure once it's out there.
If you could then turn to page, on the very bottom, 41075. Towards the very bottom of the page, but starting with 47837.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what day, time that message was sent and to whom it was sent?
It was on May 5th, 2015, at 4:21 p.m. to Wayne Wright.
And what did it say?
Is your mail secure at home? Because you could mail me your info.
And the line 47839, what did it say? Does it say?
Did you get our card? Just want to make sure gift didn't fall out.
And then I want you to turn to page 41076. Line 47862, it's kind of in the middle,
Okay.
with the date of 5/5. Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what the date, and can you tell them to whom it was sent?
On May 5th, 2015, at 7:08 p.m. to Wayne Wright.
And what does it say?
Just got it. Mail tomorrow.
And then if you would go to page 41078. Line 47933.
Mm-hmm.
If you could tell the members of the jury what date and time.
This was on May 7th, 2015, at 2:32 p.m. to Wayne Wright.
And what did it say?
Mailing out today. call me. It's very simple.
And were there any exclamation points after mailing out today?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Can you see how many?
4.
And then line 47936,
Okay.
and what date was that sent?
On May 7th, 2015 at 2:45 p.m.
And to whom
Wainwright.
was it sent?
to Wainwright.
And what did it say?
Since neither one of us are likely to carry both with us, whenever you want to use the other one, just text me, in quotes, other, and then when I call, I will call. When I can, I will call.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
Curtis Wayne Wright, Jr.
Sorry, Junior.
Yes.
Can you please spell your last name for the record?
Wright.
Mr. Wright, who killed Dr. Teresa Sievers?
Jimmy Rogers and I physically did it, but Mark Sievers was also involved in the planning.
Why did you do it?
I was asked to do it,
By whom?
Mr. Sievers.
Where were you when you became aware that there was an investigation into her death? What state were you
I
in?
was still in Missouri.
Did law enforcement officers come to Missouri?
They did.
And when they came to Missouri, did you actually have contact with Lee County Sheriff's deputies up in Missouri?
Yes.
Did they ask you about if you had any involvement in the Teresa Sievers death
Yes.
or had been to Florida?
Yes.
Did you tell them the truth?
No.
You lied to them.
I did.
At the time you lied to them, did you have an attorney?
No.
Why did you lie?
To protect me, Mark, and Jimmy.
When you said to protect me, Mark, and Jimmy, is that what you said?
Yes.
You didn't want to get arrested.
No. I tried to derail, throw the detectives off our track. Was the reason that I told them what I did.
But you got arrested anyway, right?
Yes,
Do you know Mark Sievers?
I do.
How do you know him?
We met in high school, I believe. It was either 9th or 10th grade. And we've maintained a friendship over the years.
If you don't mind my asking, how old are you?
51.
And I'm guessing you were in high school between the ages of 14 and 18?
Yes.
Do you recall how old you were when you met Mr. Sievers?
It was either 9th or 10th grade. So I think graduation is 17, isn't it? Somewhere in there. So I'd have been 15 or 16 probably.
How did you meet?
We had girlfriends that were friends. We met through them.
And when you met Mr. Sievers, did the two of you instantly become close friends, or were you just acquaintances who grew closer together as time passed?
I think the friendship has just grown. I mean, we met, we got along, had things in common, so I mean, we kind of fit, you know.
What happened after high school? Did the two of you stay close after high school?
We did. At one point, well, when we kind of hit the college age, we kind of went different ways. We still stayed in contact, but something had happened during that time period, a few years there, that Mark Mark got to where he was very difficult to be around.
Let me ask this. Now, let me just ask you a question. Did your friendship stay the same after high school?
No.
It changed.
Yes.
Now, when you were in high school, when you and Mr. Sievers were in high school, were you in Missouri?
Yes.
What part of Missouri were you in?
We went to high school in Imperial, which is just south of St. Louis.
And so the two of you were living in a school district near that?
I'm sorry, I said the wrong town. It's Arnold, not Imperial.
Okay, so you lived in Arnold, Missouri?
I lived in Imperial, but we went to school in Arnold.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
no problem. And then at some point, did the two of you get close again as
Yeah.
friends?
Yes.
When was that in relation to 2015?
The time when we got close again,
Yes.
early 90s.
Now, you told us earlier that you'd been married twice before.
Yes.
Did Mr. Sievers come to any of your weddings?
Well, my first wedding we had in my house. It was a private, family only. The second one was pretty similar. It was just a couple people. But my wife now is the one that we had a real wedding. So yes.
And so your most recent wedding, your third wedding, was one that Mr. Sievers came to.
Yes.
Did Mr. Sievers ever call you and ask you for help doing something on a computer at the medical practice?
Yeah, all the time.
And then you'd kind of talk him through it?
Yeah, if I wasn't somewhere where I could actually access the system, I would do that. I had it set up on my phone where I could actually even take control of the machines from my cell phone. It's kind of hard to work with a small screen, so in those situations, I would usually view the screen and then walk somebody through it on the phone with what to do so they could do it themselves. I was watching them then.
Now, we said that this was kind of a business relationship, so did you get paid for your work?
Not at first, but yeah, we eventually entered into an agreement.
And what was the agreement for the work?
$100 a month.
Was there ever like a contract or anything written?
Not a written contract, no.
Old school gentleman's agreement?
I did it because he asked me to.
All right, so let's talk about your wedding. Who did you marry?
Angela?
And is she now Angela Wright?
Yes.
And you told us earlier that the wedding was on, you said May 2nd
Yes.
of 2015?
Yes.
And where was the wedding held?
It was at a park. We rented a pavilion and a gazebo and had a big cookout after the ceremony, so we made a day of it.
You mentioned at the beginning of our discussion that you and Jimmy killed Dr. Sievers.
Physically, yes.
Jimmy who?
Jimmy Rogers.
Was Jimmy Rogers a guest at the wedding festivities that weekend?
Yes.
What was your relationship with Mr. Rogers?
His friends.
Was your friendship with Mr. Rogers the same kind of friendship that you had with Mr. Sievers?
No.
Had your friendship with him lasted as long as the friendship you had with Mr. Sievers?
No.
Did Mr. Rogers bring a friend or a date with him to the festivities?
Yes.
Who did he bring?
Taylor Schumacher. I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
And Taylor is a man or a woman?
It's a woman.
It's like a girlfriend or something?
Yes. They actually they were engaged and they have a baby together, so.
Did Mr. Sievers bring Dr. Sievers with him?
No.
Did he bring his daughters?
No.
Came by himself?
Yes.
So, the night of the wedding festivities, the night before you got married, you said there was a cookout at your home?
Yeah, it was kind of in the afternoon, but yeah. And then we all went out that evening.
To your knowledge, had Mr. Rogers and Mr. Sievers ever met before?
No, not in person. Actually, not even on the phone. I'm sure that they both knew who each other were through me, just from conversations.
So you had talked to Mr. Sievers and mentioned a friend named Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm sure I did.
And you maybe had talked to Mr. Rogers and mentioned a friend named Mark?
I know that I had talked to Jimmy and mentioned Mark because we had so much interaction almost daily between the work stuff.
And was this by text message as well? Or in person?
Well, when he came to the house, we talked in person, so there wasn't anything else said about it until he came to the house.
All right, so, and when he came to the house, and this is, again, the night before the wedding when you were having the festivities at your house,
Yes,
Mr. Sievers indicated that he wanted to talk to you about something.
yes,
Did you actually get a chance to talk to him?
yes.
And tell us how that conversation happened.
At some point during the day, that afternoon, he asked me if we could go somewhere and talk privately. So we went back to my bedroom, closed the door where that could happen.
And when you went into your bedroom and closed the door, was there anybody in there with you?
No,
Just you and Mr. Sievers?
yes. That's why we went to that bedroom.
And when the two of you went into your bedroom, was there anybody else present in your house?
There was a lot of people in and out of the house, between the yard and the house. I don't know who was there at the time, but
So this is the day you were entertaining guests at your home.
yeah,
And Mr. Sievers, you and Mr. Sievers separated yourselves from the rest of the group?
yes.
All right, so when you're in your bedroom, what did you and Mr. Sievers, well, let me ask you this. Did he tell you what it was he texted you about wanting to talk to you about?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
He told me that he and Teresa were having problems, marital problems. He told me that she was having an affair, and that they were having financial problems as well, considering bankruptcy.
Did you believe Mr. Sievers when he was telling you these things?
Yes.
Did you have any proof that she was having an affair or that they were having any financial problems or anything like that?
No.
You took his word for it?
Yes.
Did you get an opportunity to speak with Mr. Sievers, or did Mr. Sievers seek an opportunity to speak with you again?
Yes.
When?
The next morning, when we were getting ready for the wedding.
The morning of your wedding?
Yes.
The morning of your wedding, Mr. Sievers wanted to talk to you again about his marriage?
Yes.
Where did that conversation happen?
At the park while we were getting ready. There was a point where it was just him and I again. So,
Okay, so that Saturday now, you're out there at the park, you're getting things together as you were explaining for your wedding to your wife Angela.
yes.
And I think you said you thought you and Mr. Sievers were getting dressed.
I think that's during the time when this conversation happened.
And what did he say at this time?
He brought the situation back up. This time he told me that Teresa was actually leaving him. The night before it was just that she was having an affair. So at this point it's getting a little more involved. He said that she was actually leaving him, that she was taking the children and taking them out of state.
Okay, so you at this time, your close friend, Mr. Sievers, is telling you on the day of your wedding that his wife's leaving him. Am I taking that correctly?
Yes.
Did you think he was kidding?
No.
What was his demeanor like? Did he appear serious?
Yes.
You told us earlier that two of you were close friends, so when he told you about this, did you believe he was telling you the truth?
Yes.
All right, so now he's telling you while you're getting ready, he's telling you he thinks his wife's leaving him.
No, not that he thinks. He said she was.
Okay. What else did he tell you?
He told me that that the kids were in danger if she took them. That he couldn't let that happen. We talked about some different options as far as the marriage goes. I mentioned, that about fighting her legally for custody. He said that wasn't an option. He wasn't financially in a place that he could be able to fight her for that. Just a couple other different things. I think we talked about maybe counseling.
When you say counsel, I mean, did you have a friendly discussion with your friend about what efforts he should make to stay married?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be a good way to describe it. I mean, ways of saving the marriage.
During that part of the discussion, what else did Mr. Sievers tell you?
I believe he said that they tried counseling and it didn't work. We got interrupted. The reason I'm not sure what else was said, we got interrupted in the middle of that conversation. So.
And on the way to TK's to pick up the meat, did y'all have another discussion?
Yes.
And what was that discussion about?
It was a continuation of the same conversation. So he brought it up again, told me, that she was leaving him, that he couldn't let her take the kids away from him, and again said that they were in danger, some kind of danger, without him there to be able to protect them.
Did he ask you to do anything?
Yeah, we talked about some more. It was the same options, just brought back up. And when we kind of exhausted that, he told me that really the only option that he had was for her to die. And he said that he needed to have her killed.
Okay, so on your wedding day, on your drive to pick up meat for your wedding, Mr. Sievers is telling you that he wants to have his wife killed.
Yes, he asked me to help him.
I mean, what kind of help was he asking for? Was he asking you to do it yourself, or what? Like, what kind of help could he be possibly asking his friend for?
Well, it was pretty direct. He asked me if I would kill her. She didn't seem to respond much. I thought that it would knock her out. I've never hit anybody with a hammer before, so I didn't know how hard you had to hit. But I have medical problems with my shoulders, and I don't have a lot of strength in my shoulders. So when I hit her, it was more elbow. But I didn't hit her hard enough. She continued to turn towards me. She put her hands up and was trying to defend herself.
She fought?
Yes.
She fought for her life?
Yeah, she was surprised. I actually think that she thought I was Mark. She said, "Why?"
Can you please state your full name for the record?
Adam Lucas Hughes.
And Mr. Hughes, I see you're wearing a uniform and a badge. Can you tell us where you're employed, sir?
I'm a lieutenant paramedic at Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District.
Okay. And were you employed as a medic on June 29th of 2015?
Yes, sir.
And on that day, did you become involved in an investigation at 27034 Jarvis Road in Bonita Springs?
Yes, sir.
How was it that you became involved there?
We were at the station 21, which is located in that district. We received a tone for a cardiac arrest, and we responded to the address.
Well, we don't have any medical training, so what does cardiac arrest mean?
A cardiac arrest is that the heart is no longer beating on its own.
And did you have an opportunity to make contact with the cardiac arrest patient?
As we opened the door, we came straight through, and the patient was down on the ground right as you came through the door into the kitchen.
And now, when you get called out to a cardiac arrest, do you take any life-saving equipment with you?
Yes, sir. We take our cardiac monitor, a Zoll monitor. We take our med bag. We take our airway bag, and we take a suction unit.
Okay. And are these devices that you use to try to render first aid to a person who's suffering from cardiac arrest?
Yes, sir.
And so, did you make contact with the victim in the home?
As we entered, we saw the victim laying on the ground. We got to the threshold of the laundry room, and we witnessed the patient down on the ground, and we witnessed injuries incompatible with life.
And when you saw the injuries that were incompatible with life, were you able to deploy any of your life-saving equipment to try and save her life?
No, sir.
No way it would have happened?
No, sir.
Did you touch the body?
No, sir.
Did you walk around the house at all?
No, sir.
What did you do after you said you got to the threshold and you saw the injuries? What did you do then?
We turned around and exited the house.
Okay. And did any law enforcement arrive?
As we exited, we waited at the end of the driveway, and eventually, after a minute, 2, 3, some law enforcement arrived.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
David Michael Lebid.
And can you spell your last name for the court reporter, please?
L-E-B as in boy, I-D as in David.
Where are you currently employed, sir?
Lee County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity are you employed there?
I'm currently a lieutenant in our homicide unit.
And what was your role back in June of 2015?
At that time, I was a sergeant in the same unit, and I was a supervisor over this case.
And as a supervisor over this case, what were your duties?
To monitor the progress of how everything was progressing from our crime scene to neighborhood canvases to the investigation of different people involved.
And were you the supervisor over the case from its inception?
Yes.
Now, initially, when Dr. Sievers was found on the 29th of June 2015, did you have any suspects at that time?
No.
At some point, was there a break in the case?
Eventually.
And when did that break come?
Our largest break occurred, saying July 9th, same year.
And where did it come from?
We received a phone call from someone up north saying that they knew of a witness that had information that could impact our investigation.
And as a result of that phone call, what did you do?
We went up there to speak with this witness to determine what our next step was.
And were you able to actually make contact and speak with the witness?
Yes, we did.
Who did you speak with?
Her name is Rose Grunert.
And after you spoke with Rose Grunert, did you hop back on a plane and come back to Fort Myers?
No, we did not.
You had to extend your stay a little bit?
Yes, we did.
How long was that initial trip to speak with Miss Grunert? How long did you anticipate staying away from home?
Initially, we anticipated a couple days, but by the time I came home, it was about 13 days later.
So after you spoke with Miss Grunert, where did you go?
We went to Jefferson County, Missouri.
And what was the purpose of going to Jefferson County, Missouri?
We had some people we wanted to speak to and some places to look for evidence.
And who did you want to speak to in Jefferson County?
The first person we wanted to speak with was Curtis Wayne Wright, Jr.
And why did you want to speak with Mr. Wright?
Well, based on information that we learned from Ms. Gruner, he became a person of interest for us.
And when you got to Jefferson County, did you get to speak to Mr. Wright?
Eventually, we did.
And did you get to ask him about the death of Dr. Sievers?
Yes, we did.
And did he admit to any involvement in the death of Dr. Sievers?
No, he denied all involvement.
And after you spoke with Mr. Wright, was there anybody else in Jefferson County that you wanted to speak with?
Yes, there were numerous people.
Let's talk specifically about Jimmy Ray Rogers. Let's talk about your initial contact with, did you have an initial contact with Jimmy Rogers?
Yes, we did.
And how and why did you make initial contact with Mr. Rogers?
Through the process of going through evidence from Mr. Wright, namely his cell phone, as well as cell phone records, we learned that Jimmy Ray Rogers was someone that he spoke with in a close time to the weekend when Dr. Teresa Sievers was murdered. So that became something of interest to us during our timeline.
Did you employ the services of other members of the sheriff's office in your investigation?
Yes.
And, what are some of the things that sheriff's office, when you do a homicide investigation, what are some other things that you have to research and investigate now, other than just a crime scene?
Based on today's current technology, there are numerous other things that we need to review, to include, most notably, cell phones and cell phone records belonging to the people involved in order to determine the timeline of events, as well as to see who communicates with who and how frequently. On top of that, we also review computers. And to a degree, a lot of our cell phones are computers for us also. And that provides a huge challenge because of the volume of data that we have to go through. So that's why we involve numerous members from our agency to aid in that.
And so in order to conduct that 21st century investigation, do you find yourself gathering phone numbers from witnesses, suspects, and other people involved in your investigation?
Yes.
And all the phone numbers that you gave us, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Wright, Mr. Sievers, Mrs. Wright, did you receive records regarding those from the cell phone carriers regarding all of those numbers as well?
Yes, we did.
And when those records arrived, what did you do with them?
Well, we had our analysts that focus on cell phone records process the data to help us sort and recognize the volume of calls to specific phone numbers, so that helped us understand the relationships of different people who was talking more frequently, as well as a timeline of when people speak to each other. And on top of our analysts, different investigators will also look at it with a different eye, a different point of view.
Detective, would you agree with me that that Mr. Wright had, over the course of this investigation, given you several untruthful statements?
Yes.
Okay. And would you further agree with me that you were present for the proffer agreement, you were present for the sworn statement, and you were present for and conducted all of his previous interviews? Is that correct?
Yes.
So is it fair to say, out of everyone in the investigation, you personally had the most face-to-face contact with Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Okay. So you have firsthand then, you've borne witness to his dishonesty, correct?
Correct.
And you know that part of his sworn statement agreement, part of that agreement was he has to provide a polygraph upon demand. Is that correct?
That sounds right. There was a lot of details on it.
Was a polygraph ever administered to Mr. Wright in this case?
No.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Yes, Myra Simmons.
And would you spell both your first and your last name for our court reporter?
Yes, it's Myra Simmons.
Now, until recently, did you work at the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, I did.
Have you recently retired?
Yes, November 22nd of this year.
How long did you work at the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
14 years.
And in what capacity did you work at the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I was an analyst.
And what's an analyst?
I did investigative research and I analyzed call detail records.
Would that therefore include cell phone records?
Yes.
Before we continue, do you have any training or experience in investigative techniques?
Yes, for 14 years I worked for the U.S. government, which I did investigative research. Worked 14 years with Lee County Sheriff's Office, which I did investigative techniques and research. And I have a bachelor's degree in information technology.
Was there a time when you were asked by Lee County Sheriff detectives to assist in their investigation in the murder of Teresa Sievers?
Yes.
And what were you initially asked to do?
Lieutenant Downs asked me if I could determine if burner phones was utilized in the homicide of Mrs. Sievers.
And what do you consider a burner phone?
I consider a burner phone is one that you buy for a short time period. There's no name or subscriber on the information, and after its use, it's thrown away, so it's not a long phone.
When you saw that it was a track phone, did you ask detectives to obtain the track phone information?
Yes.
And did you receive that information?
Yes, I did. That phone was purchased on May the 7th, 15/12/40. That's military time, which would be 3/12/40, our time, on Juliet Boulevard in Naples, Florida.
And did you enter the records for that 858 number into Cellhawk?
Yes, I did.
And having entered those numbers into Cellhawk, were you able to determine the first time that 858 number pinged off of a cell tower?
Yes, on the 7th at 3:19, it pinged. That blue is where, in the middle would be the cell tower. The colors around there, that's AT&T's tower. That's the closest tower to that Walmart store on Juliet Boulevard. And that's off of Mockley Road. And it pinged it was activated at 3:19 p.m. It was a text. It looks like it was just an activation. There wasn't any number. And the longitude and latitude was 26.271939, negative 81.726667. And this became important to me, that address of that longitude and latitude, which is the address of that tower right in the middle.
So I think you just said longitude and latitude that you see on these records when you do this in Cellhawk, that's reflecting where the tower is located?
Correct, that's the address of the tower.
And do we see like a little pin in the name Walmart on the map?
Yes.
And what did you ping there? Did you place that pin there?
I placed that pin there. That's the Walmart listed at 5420 Juliet Boulevard in Naples, Florida.
And did you take that, with those records, is that when you put that, when you received the track phone records, is that when you put that address into
Yes.
Cellhawk? Now, you also, if we go back, talked about the once you did this for this area code, what was your next step with the 858 number? What did you next examine or do with Cellhawk?
I had Mr. Sievers' personal cell phone records, the 314, and here it shows that he is, Mark Sievers is the contact person. So I put those cell phone records into Cellhawk to see on that date if there was any pings in that area.
And were you able to determine whether this person, this cell number, 314-239-0173, were you able to determine whether that phone pinged off of any cell towers between 3 and 3:40 on May 7th?
Yes, the red is his personal cell. You can see the Walmart pinged. It's the same longitude and latitude as the burner phone.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Dr. Thomas Coyne.
And would you spell your last name for our court reporter?
Sure. Coyne.
And Dr. Coyne, where do you work?
At the District 21 Medical Examiner's Office here in Fort Myers.
And what do you do at the District Medical Examiner's Office?
I am currently the Deputy Chief Medical Examiner.
And could you describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your background and your education to be a medical examiner?
Sure. 4 years of college at Rutgers University, followed by MD training in medical school at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. At the same time, I completed a PhD in toxicology at Rutgers University. Lastly, I did my general pathology residency at the Hospital University of Pennsylvania, subspecialty training in neuropathology at the same place, and then finally my forensic pathology training at the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office. And so currently I am board certified in general pathology, forensic pathology, and neuropathology.
And about how many autopsies have you performed?
Right now it's probably approaching 1,300 autopsies.
And what's the purpose of an autopsy?
An autopsy proceeds much like an examination of a patient in an office, the goal of which is to, in the end, determine why this person died. And I can talk about how an autopsy proceeds if you'd like. So,
Yes.
again, as I mentioned, it's just like an examination in an office. It begins by looking at the person externally, from what were they wearing to what is their body height, weight, eye color, and then, of course, looking for any evidence of natural disease on the outside that may clue me into what I may find on the inside. In addition, we can also look for signs of injury. After we do our external examination, we begin with an internal examination where we examine both the head as well as the chest and abdomen for all the organ systems. Again, looking for natural disease processes and, of course, for injury. Hopefully there we'll have an idea why a person died, but if not, then we can go a little further and use either biopsy specimens to look under the microscope for disease. We can do special testing for infections like cultures or toxicology testing as well. And collectively, all those results come together and help us synthesize both the cause and manner of death.
And so you indicated photos were taken of a victim. So photos were taken of Teresa Sievers after her clothes were removed and any blood was cleaned from her. Is that correct?
Yes, and throughout the autopsy procedure as well. So we stop and take photos of anything that is of importance.
Now, did you take photos of Teresa Sievers with her hair when it was on her head?
Yes, we did.
Did you also, was her head shaved?
Yes, we had to. Yes.
Is that standard procedure in every autopsy?
Not every autopsy, but in autopsies where you have injuries to the scalp, it allows us to visualize the actual injury. In this case, there were many injuries that were underneath the hair, so we had to remove that hair in order to better characterize those injuries.
Versus Mark D. Sievers, case number 15 CF 673B. Verdict. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case. Count 1, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Conspiracy. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy.